This is going to be a video on what is required and how to make an aluminium bike lifter that will actually lift the Tenere 700. This is the bike lifter that I think it's version 13, maybe 14, I'm not sure. I've made them out of steel, the steel work. I've made them out of lighter gauge aluminium than this. They didn't work, they bent. This one is made with 25mm industrial grade aluminium. It's got a 3mm wall. It will flex, but it won't break, it won't bend. It's as solid as a rock. I've lifted the bike a couple of times with it now. I will do a video down the track once I've done a full demo of how I actually made this. I'm going to go from here, show you the tools that I've used. They are fairly basic garage workshop type tools, and you can use them or you can do it by hand. There's not a lot of work in it, but it requires patience and a bit of time. Okay, these are the tools that I've used. Most important, pair of gloves. Good quality, heavy leather palm, simply because aluminium, when you're working it, gets really hot, and unlike steel, you cannot see that it's hot until you burn your finger. So they're the first thing, and they're really important. You need either an angle grinder with a stainless steel cutting blade or a good hacksaw. After that, now I'm using belt sanders. You can use this type, that type. You can use a wooden belt sander turned upside down as long as you can brace it. And that's all you need. You only need that to make up the, you've got to reduce that down from 20mm to 19mm so that it'll fit into the 25mm tube. And it's pretty simple to do. You can do it with a file if you haven't got this sort of stuff. It just takes a bit longer. And then the other things you need is a couple of files, and eventually you're going to need a butane burner. And I'll show you what that's for when I actually start demonstrating how to make things up. So that's it in the tool department. Okay, we're going to reduce this down to 19mm so that it'll slot into there. I've just stopped it to tell you the beauty of using this is that it creates its own momentum. The belt turning actually turns this so you get a really good even rotation so that you haven't got more taken off one side than what you have the other, so it's pretty even all around, which makes this a great tool to use. Now that is the length of tube that I initially cut. I'll give you the sizes in a minute. What you need to do is, once you've cut it, as you can see, it's all rough and horrible. What I've done here is I have one that I've finished the end off, and as you can see, I've smoothed it all off. I've filed off all of the burrs on the inside. And now with this finished, that just slots in nicely. Now, one of the other things that I've done, you don't have to do, but I left, when I've ground this down, I've left a little bit of a lip there, still 20mm. And the idea of that is when you put that in there, it's not going to go. I can whack that, I can do whatever I like. It's not going to go any further because that 20 mil is holding that, so that when you stack everything on top of each other, that is going to hold that in place. So that makes a really good finished job.
Okay.
Right. Okay, these are the ones that I've just made up this morning. Now, initially, I cut them at 250 mil. Now, what I found with that is that for my tenoré and for my height, when they were stacked up, I'm working with my arm up like this. It was really uncomfortable. So what I'd done was I reduced mine down to 205 mil. So that got me so that I'm working at a really comfortable level. Now, anyone that's got shoulder problems or elbow problems, it's imperative to work out what is the right height for you. So my recommendation is that you initially make them at 250 and then work it, then cut them down to what suits your body and your bike. Okay, this is the finished mount that I've made for the ratchet. I've got to flatten the piece out like so, and then I've got to shape this. Now, initially, all I had on here was a flange and over the bolt under there, it was just a pipe tie over there and bolted in. Wasn't strong enough. So now what I've done, this is where I've got the 30 mil strapping. I've got to heat it, bend it, shape it, drill it, and that's my next job. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, we're now going to bend the strap, heat it and bend it. Now this is where the gloves are imperative, because like I said before, when you heat aluminium, it gets really bloody hot, equal to white hot with metal, but you can't see it. So be aware of that, and that's where the butane burner comes in. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put that in there. I'll heat it, put that in there. I'll have that there, which is what I've got to shape it around, and then I will slowly bend it to suit that, and then I can shape it from there. Okay, this is all trial and error. Like I said, you can't tell how hot it is, so you just got to hope you got it right. I think that should be about enough. So what I'm going to do now, turn that off, put that on there, and whack the crap out of it. Stop now, put a bit more heat in it, because I want a neat finish. So that gives you a rough idea of how good it does a job once you heat it. If you don't heat it, that there will all craze and it weakens the aluminium. Even though I'm heating down there, I am really starting to feel the heat up here where I've got a hold of it. Get it down to the level of the jaws of the vise, like so, while that's still hot. You can close the vise up.
Yep.
Our next job is to create this section here. How I do that again is by heating the pipe only to that black line and then squeezing it in. Because it's a tube, it takes a little bit more time as far as heating is concerned. And this is a job I have a tendency to just do in bits and pieces, like I'll squeeze it up, do it, heat it up again. I just don't like to overheat it. Aluminium will melt if you put too much heat into it. Now I'll start. I won't turn that off. So we're on the way. Almost. And that's what we need. So I'll put that under the tap to cool it down. Now this is our finished part. What's required now is that goes there with a bolt through that hole, and then the loop over part goes over here. So I've just got to dress that up, and that's done simply. So I'll put the goggles back on, put the power in. Okay, the reason for this is that I learnt from my own mistakes. If you don't have that neat and if you have sharp edges, you fray your strap. So it's really important that that's tidied up. That's the most important tidy piece. Okay, that's what we need. I can just finally finish that off with a fine file. So now what I've got to do is drill a hole through there so that that will fit on there, and then do the loop. So that's our next job. Okay, I've drilled and bolted the shaft onto the ratchet. My next task is I've cleaned this up. I've got to put it on like so. A bolt and a sleeve. It's awkward.
Yeah.
So the bolt will go in with the sleeve. Turn it over. Drop the bolt back down. Fit another sleeve. Those sleeves are 10mm. A little bit of persuasion is needed. And that's how you want it tight. Okay, So then we tighten this up. All I've got to do now with this is I'm going to just to tidy it up. Shape around like so, like that. Cut that off, tidy it up. Same over this side. Cut around. And that. And then it's just a matter of tidying that up and deciding what height it's got to go. I know which height it's got to go because it's got to go the same as mine it's for another tenor rate. Cut them off, and then Bob's your uncle. You've got a bike lifter. And like I said, in the not too distant, when the weather clears up a bit here, I will take my bike down to the park, drop it on the ground, and demonstrate how it actually works. But it does work. It works well. So don't think that you can't do it, because you can. You don't need to be a great engineer or anything like that. It's just have confidence in yourself in doing it, and you'll be right. It'll work. Okay guys, thank you.